Jim, thanks so much for joining us here.
Thank you for having me.
We've heard an awful lot about a fairly pessimistic outlook for this industry and the economic climate. What would you say about coping and mitigating for all those factors that are out there for this industry now?
Well, it's a tough environment for the industry with all the pressures on revenues that come from the move to passive, the price erosion that goes with that and with competition. I think that the industry, in addition to that, has technology costs and regulatory costs. So there's both declining revenues industry-wide and increasing costs. So it's a bit of a squeeze. What do we do about it? I think that our recipe for growth is to find capabilities that clients need and want to pay for. So for us, that means niche asset categories where you can genuinely outperform, and it means putting together strategies to form outcome-oriented multi-asset investments. That sold through a global distribution platform to leverage it, I think is one recipe for success. Not unique, there are other ways to do it, but that's our one.
This is pinpointing your value in a human sense, if you like.
Well, I think there's human sense, I think there's human technology, people make technology, so it's all human, but using rules-based investing as well as more subjective approaches, I think that's right.
So it's layers of utilising that tech that some have seen as a threat, a disruptor, to best benefit the customer at the end of the day.
In most cases, I would see tech as an enabler rather than as a threat.
And in what ways can you utilise it? What would you say is the best practice for taking tech now and layering it into your business?
I'd point to two areas. The first is in the investment area, where data analysis has been part of what we do for a long time. But data analysis is changing with machine learning, artificial intelligence, crowdfunding. There's just a lot of ways that you can actually use new data techniques to improve your data analysis. That would be one piece. The other piece is the customer interface, improving the immediacy and quality of client reporting, which ultimately for individual customers leads to mobile functionality, which when it really happens will be quite powerful for the investment industry.
And when you say when it happens, can you be part of sort of shaping that? Do you
absolutely.
have very collaborative thinking with tech companies?
With tech companies and also with distributors, because I think one of the issues this industry has is its own fragmentation. And distributors, asset managers tend to be different people, financial advisors, different groups that use our services. That fragmentation has made this industry, frankly, a pretty slow adapter to the client-facing technology. But it will happen, and we're in lots of collaborative relationships to try and make that happen.
So that's fragmentation in the industry. What about fragmentation globally and the sort of economic global outlook? How challenging is that landscape at the moment for your industry?
Well, the global outlook is challenging because it's changing. And change is both a threat and an opportunity. And I'd point, for example, to the increasing disengagement of the United States from the global system, the aversion to multilateral relationships like TPP, like the EU. So there's a change going on in attitudes given populist politics, not just in the US, but elsewhere. Brexit is another example. Our industry has built up on easy transfer of assets and on a globalist approach. That seems to be, at least for now, politically going into reverse. How do we cope with that? I think you still want to diversify. Maybe you want to diversify even more because it's such to mitigate the risks of the environment. But I think that what we need to do really is be very careful as we analyze the risks, diversify appropriately, and go for those opportunities in less well-researched, less liquid categories where the returns can still be superior.
So you talked there about less well-researched. What about emerging markets and opportunities in geographies that haven't been properly investigated and looked at before?
I think that's part of it. And I think one of the interesting things there is that the opportunities in emerging markets are expanding. I'll give you an example. If you were in an emerging market and you wanted to borrow money to start a business, fund a business, until the financial crisis, you'd have gone to a bank. Now the banks are kind of closed up, so looking at the bond market has to expand. Private credit markets are expanding. So emerging markets are seeing their own structural changes that are leading to opportunities. I think that's very exciting for the industry.
We heard Yanis earlier talking about the flow of money around the world and having this collaborative approach. Do you think that's a realistic goal to have, and do you think it's something that will really happen, that economists around the world will come together to sort of see what's best for the world?
I think that is a little too benign to expect. Politics will always be a short-term game. What's the old British quote, a week is a long time in politics? So that short-termism of politics will make that benign collaboration very hard to achieve. But I do think that we can solve problems one by one within the industry. You know, I would argue asset management is one of the reasons why the global economy has delivered much greater prosperity over the last few decades. Let's keep that going.
Let's be part of the solution.
Exactly.
Great, thanks for your thoughts, Jim.
Thanks very much.